on March 1st, a federal food assistance program known as SNAP was set to expire in 32 states. The SNAP program was launched at the onset of the pandemic in 2020, and it made a major difference in the lives of the over 40 million Americans who relied on the assistance to provide for their families, especially during a time of record high inflation. Oklahoma is one of those 32 states, and residents there are bracing for these upcoming challenges. Joining me now is Chris Bernard, President and CEO of Hunger Free Oklahoma. Chris, thanks for joining us on this. When you're taking a look at SNAP benefits in your state, right, that's an increase on average of $95 a month for most recipients. Folks in your state, in the state of Oklahoma, if we're looking specifically at senior and disabled individuals, how is this going to affect them?
Well, it's going to be huge. And for seniors and disabled in particular, they tend to be on the low end normally of the SNAP benefits, so they could go from $280 a month or a little more all the way down to $23 a month. But it's not just going to affect them. It's $55 million per month coming into our state to help people afford the food they need, right? So that doesn't just impact individuals and families, which it will be huge, and they will be making very hard decisions, some skipping meals to afford medication, more visits to pantries, but it's also going to impact our local grocers, particularly those that are serving low-income communities. They're going to see a loss in revenue, which may mean lost jobs or cut hours for their employees. So the ripple effect is going to be pretty significant.
I'm wondering if there was a way for the government and these SNAP benefits to account for inflation, because you're looking at a huge increase just in the last 3 years for a family of four. $654 is the cost of feeding them back in 2020, right? 2023, January 2023, $978. And that's all obviously because of where we're at with inflation in this country. Is there a way, or should they have accounted for possible inflation amidst the COVID pandemic?
So they adjust SNAP benefits based on inflation over time, and the Biden administration deserves credit for doing that fairly recently. But the fact is our benefit programs have never really fully reflected the reality of what families deal with, right? So benefits were not adequate before we instituted these emergency allotment increases. They're not going to be adequate when they end, and we need a real conversation in Congress, and this year is a perfect year to do it because it's the Farm Bill, which controls SNAP, and we need to have a discussion about increasing benefits so they reflect the reality of what families are facing, and also increasing access to those who may not be eligible now, but really should be. We have this story that we're looking at, we talk to partners, we talk to individuals who call our hotline, we monitor social media, and there was a mom who said she'd just become ineligible for SNAP. So she $32 over the threshold, right? Which for a family of four, the threshold for SNAP is $36,000. It's not huge. And she had to make the decision between feeding her kids and paying her now increased rent. And she made the decision to feed her kids, and now she doesn't have a home. And you're talking about a lot more decisions like that coming. And we need to do something long-term, right? Short-term, we should have stepped these benefits down over time to give families time to brace. And when this was designed, some of us advocated for that, but in the end, it didn't happen, right? So that's a lesson.
So here's what I wonder. Are you hearing from folks, especially the elderly, the disabled, that they know this expiration is coming? Because oftentimes what happens with this is they're not even aware this is about to happen, and then suddenly that check doesn't show up. And they're not able to afford the things that they have been regularly buying.
The ones we hear for are the ones who knew, right? So I think that's the challenge. And we do a lot of outreach. We push to, we run the SNAP outreach plan for our state. So we push to all of our partners who engage people on SNAP, information to families, disabled, elderly, about this coming, about what they can do to try and make sure their information's up to date so they get their maximum benefit, to make sure they're accessing other benefits that they might be eligible for. For instance, if you're a family with a kid under 5, you should be on WIC as well to help you stretch that budget. Medicaid, all those things, making sure you're leveraging all these various assistance programs. But in the end, again, none of those are adequate for the inflation we've seen. If we look at Oklahoma City, one of our major urban areas, a family of four who makes around $36,000. So that's a father working for nearly double minimum wage full time and a mother working part time. If we look at average rent costs, what SNAP gives them, et cetera, in the end, in their budget, they only have $800 for transportation, medical costs, clothing, everything else, because everything is taken up by utilities, food, and housing.
My gosh. It's not sustainable. Chris Bernard, we thank you. Really good conversation. Coming up next, everybody, a look